Buffalo 2-0 on the season, trying to get to 3-0 for the first time since 1992. They get that chance at home against the Oakland Raiders. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz, CBS Sports' Charley Casserly. Glad to be with you on the NFL previews presented by Comcast. And there's a lot going on with the Raiders. We'll get into that in a sec. But let's start with the positive. We're happy people up here. So let's start with the Bills, Charlie. And I know you've liked them since the beginning of the season, and you said that they were going to do some things, fight for a playoff spot. But could you have expected this much out of Trent Edwards so far as what we've seen?
Well, yes and no. I think that the issue with Trent Edwards in the opening game was that he had missed some time in preseason and was a little bit rusty. You know, he played very well last week. Here you can see his numbers, 70% completion plus 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. What he is a very smart passer. He sees things. He gets it out quick. He's an accurate passer. Not a big arm, but, you know, good enough to make the throws where the defense has to stay on it. So I am not surprised at how well he played last week.
And the best part about it, you referenced it, no interceptions. He has not turned the football over yet, and that gives Buffalo the chance to win. But he also has 2 go-to receivers now. Obviously, Lee Evans, the deep threat, but what we saw last week, especially in the red zone, the ability to find that tall receiver in James Hardy.
Well, what you got with Lee Evans is one of the best receivers in the game that probably, because he plays in Buffalo, doesn't get enough recognition. Now, James Hardy, they drafted in the 2nd round out of Indiana. They wanted to get a size receiver to complement their other receivers, which weren't that big. Lee Evans, Roscoe Parrish being 2 of them. So where he can help you out, Hardy that is, and Jason referenced it, is in the red zone. And you saw it last week. There was a touchdown and a fade route. That's where you'll probably see him get most of his production at this point early in the season. But now it gives him a balanced tandem, at least on size.
And defensively, Buffalo has been very good as well, and we've talked about this since the beginning of the season. The addition of Marcus Stroud and Paul Posluszny coming back from injury, it's been huge for them.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, their defense, what Stroud has done is he's given them the big body in the middle, which is what they lacked last year. And you can see 91.5 against the rush. That's very good. The other thing what Stroud has been able to do, you know, the other players have been able to get a chance to rotate in there, so it gives them a good rotation. And also, when you have a big tackle in the middle on the defense, then your middle linebacker, Paul Posluszny, is an instinctive guy that can react sideline to sideline. Makes your defense better.
It also helps a guy like Schobel on the outside get to the quarterback a little bit. Now let's switch things over to the Raiders, and we'll get to them for this game in a second. But, Charlie, so much turmoil, and it was, you know, reported before the beginning of the Kansas City game that Al Davis may have fired Lane Kiffin as early as Monday morning. Obviously, that didn't happen, but there's a lot of turmoil there. How does that affect the locker room going in, week out?
Well, I think it can affect the locker room just by the number of questions you get asked by everybody around you, mainly the media. But for the most part, the players want to play the game. And where it can affect you is this. If the players feel they can go around the coach to the owner when they have issues, then that causes a dysfunctional football team in a locker room. Now, if none of the players are doing that right now, then your locker room is not going to be dysfunctional. But when players see coaches not getting along, when players can circumvent the head coach through the media or going to the owner, then that's dysfunction. In the long run, it's not going to succeed.
Well, it hasn't happened so far, at least in terms of this week. We'll see if it happens going forward. As for this game, last week Oakland ran for 300 yards against Kansas City. They won't have Justin Fargas, but it'll be McFadden and Michael Bush, who both had big games. Will they be able to run it against Buffalo, who you already said has a great rush defense?
Well, when you have good runners, you always have a chance to run the football. The difference for Oakland is this is the best defense they're going to play, and they're playing it on the road, so you're going to have the crowd noise affecting you. Your passing attack, which we'll get to in a minute, is struggling. So can they run the football? Not nearly as effectively, in my opinion, as the last 2 weeks. But when you have good runners, you got a chance to break runs.
Well, then Jamarcus Russell will have to be better than he was last week when he only completed 6 passes. Let's throw all the numbers into the computer. The AccuScore prediction, 10,000 tests, 10,000 results, and they agree with you. 71% of the time, the Bills came out on top. I want to know how the Raiders got 29% with the way they've looked the first 2 weeks. But, Charlie, Buffalo big this week?
A lot of people like Darren McFadden. They must have him in their fantasy.
Hey, listen, Arkansas, okay. Jerry Jones, Arkansas, it's all out there. But you like Buffalo big?
Buffalo, yes. I don't know about big. Buffalo will win. Right now, I don't know if Buffalo's offense is quite ready to explode yet, but Buffalo to win.
We'll see how it all plays out. A 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff on CBS. And for more on this one or any other in Week 3, be sure to stay with CBSSports.com and watch everything else all over the CBS Audience Network. For Charley Casserly, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.